Hi there, and welcome again to Snowy Owl Knits. This is our discussion on needle types today. And if you are an absolute beginner and you're thinking of what to go out and buy, I just wanted to cover a few basic things about needles, what to look for. At the very end, I'll give you recommendations for what to purchase before you go and just blow hundreds of dollars on things that you won't need. So in general, the greatest difference between needles is this. And as you can see on this set and this set, both, are about the same size, give or take, but one set has a cap at the end and a point at the other. And these are referred to as straight needles. And this set, which actually comes in a set of 5, both ends of the needle have a point or a tip. That difference comes in later when you decide whether you want to work on flat projects or on projects that are in the round, meaning something that is knit up into a circumference, such as this small preemie hat. You see it's a cylinder that graduates up to a pointed top. And you need some version of working in the round, either with double pointed needles or circular needles, which we'll get to in just a little bit. Another thing to consider when you are choosing needles is whether you wish to work with something like bamboo, like these, or if you prefer to work in wood, in which these two give you an example of. They're two different kinds of wood. One is pretty fancy and the other one I think is still a little fancy, but they're warm to the touch and they feel very good. They're a little bit slick. Bamboo tends to have just a little more grip to it in general. You can also find needles in aluminum or some form of metal, like in these aluminum needles, and these are made by Boy, commonly found in a big box store. And these needles are a kind of metal that is employed by Knitter's Pride. You can also find plastic needles like these old ones that my mother gave me, and these are really very inexpensive and they're light, and you might prefer that sort of lineup. The second thing that you have to consider when you're buying needles is the size of the needle. And the size of the needle refers to the circumference, the length of the circumference around the needle. And I'm going to give you an example of two varying sizes here. These are a Hiku size 2 needle, and you can see they're very small. And here's a very exaggerated example. This is almost a novelty needle, and it's much, much greater. If I were to hold it up for you to see, around the circumference this way is 5 inches. And this wouldn't make up even a portion of an inch. Sizes range from 000 in the United States, which is very, very, very small and used to work on things like lace and socks. And then you may find needles that are somewhere in the middle, like these Chagu double pointed needles. These are US 7 and 4.5 millimeter in other countries, European method. And what you use, what you wish to create, is what determines what sort of needle that you're going to work with, other than how it feels in your hand and the length. Let's talk about length here for a minute. These are 14-inch needles, and they are useful for scarves and projects that are limited in size to being no more wide than 13.5 or so inches. Some knitters find it very difficult to manage this much needle because sometimes it'll get caught up on clothing and there are a lot of stitches moving forward, and it's a choice, it's a personal preference. Now some people love these longer needles because they can kind of tuck one under their arm and then kind of work the stitches off of the needle as they go. Another very standard size are these 10-inch needles. And I don't recall the brand on these, but I picked them up because they were just so pretty. These are in a size US 6, and I'll commonly refer to sizes in US sizes, which you will hear in whole numbers, or something like perhaps 10.5, but I'll always be referring to US sizes. So it's possible to buy needles in just one size at a time. Double pointed needles, such as these, come typically in sets of 4 or 5 because they are used for creating projects in a tube. And so you have a certain number of stitches on 4 needles, and you're using the 5th to work those in a circular pattern, creating a tube. So that would be one set of this size, and you'll have to forgive me for noise that needles make. They're just like that. They're lovely. Another way that you can buy needles is in sets such as these. This is my Knitter's Pride Carbons, and I really like these needles because they are carbon fiber for the shaft of the needle, and they have a lovely metal tip and cap at the end, and they come from sizes US 4 through US 11. This is good for a wide variety of projects and will give you much more flexibility. In addition, if you're working with a lighter colored yarn, you'll find that your stitches really show up well on these dark needles. But don't worry, having dark needles and dark yarn is perfectly acceptable and comfortable as well. Now I want to talk about another category of needles, and that is circular needles. Let me pull out a couple of demonstration models for you here. All right. This set has a long cord, and at either end are needle tips. This only has 2 tips, and they connect at the base to a longer cord. Many of these come with an adapter where you can attach many cords at one time and work on large projects like blankets or afghans, very, very large things, bedspreads. These are some smaller examples of circular needles. Let's include this little example as well. These have a tip at either end of a long cord. This one is a little bit longer, and you can see that I can put it into a circle, and all of your stitches will be held on the cord as you work them, and they'll just travel around and around and around. Now there is a kind of hybrid between these sorts of needles. Let me move these off to the side. Brings us into a comparison. So I have this set of Addi flips. These are 8-inch long needles. It has 2 points. One is a very fine lace point, and the other one is a more blunt point. And these are used to work items in the round. This is a set of Addy Flexi Flips, and this is really a combination between circular knitting and knitting with DPNs to make circular knitting. What you do in this example with the Flexi Flips, stay out of the way, let's get them up. Okay, the idea there is that you put stitches on 2 needles and you use the 3rd needle to work around. The bend in this cord allows you to make very tiny circumference items. What if you were making little elf stockings? You could do that on these and use the 3rd to work them. These are very, very interesting and fun to work with. Great for socks and very small items. So we've gone over the different basic types of needles, and now I'd like to show you a couple of circular sets that I very much recommend. I'm going to get all these babies over here to the side so they give me some working room. These two are a set of Addy Click circular needle sets. And the one in the brown case has a shorter needle part, and the one in the second has longer needle parts. So I'm going to open up and see if I can't show you both at once. Each set comes with US size 4 through 11 needles with a connector, and also with, let me open this one here, there's a little pocket in the back. If you unzip it, you get cords of various lengths. And I don't have all of them in here, but I want to show you that it's very easy to use these sets. In here, as I open it, you'll see the difference between the needles. Okay. In one set, the needle is about 5 inches long, and in the other, these are about 2.5 inches long. Both same in their general setup, but the nice thing about this is that, especially as a new beginner, if you do invest in needles such as these, you're going to find that the needle length adds a great deal to your confidence with knitting. That being said, I want to explain why. So when I knit, I frequently am resting the base of the needle kind of down here at the very base of my hand. It gives me a lot of control and confidence. I can also move it out if I need to towards my pinky and really have something for leverage. This is why I prefer the longer set better, but this shorter version also allows you to do some things if you're very specific on length and your cord length is just not matching up to the number of stitches that you need to put on there. This gives you that 2.5 inch difference in getting just the right size. And so I like having both sets of these, even though I prefer using these even more. See, this doesn't reach the bottom of my hand, and I have to really work at getting, fingers on it where I need to, but I can do it when I need to because it's just that handy. And so with all of those pieces of information in mind, I do want to kind of sum up for you. If you're the beginner and you very much want to start off on an absolute budget, find some plastic needles and perhaps a 10-inch size, and that will allow you to spend very little money and still get the same effects. If you're really enjoying what you're doing and you want to step up your game just a little bit, then I'd recommend, you know, the plastic you can get for $3-4. Now, if you were to go to a set of bamboo needles, you might spend about 16. Up from that, if you want straight needles, I would invest about $65 in the Knitter's Pride carbons, and you're going to be able to do a variety of things. If you can go ahead and spend $100 to $120 on one set of needles, I would go with a set like this, the Addy Clicks, but I would go with the longer needle size. As I said before, that little extra bit of needle length will provide you with comfort and lightness and ease, and with the cords you're going to be able to do anything from small swatches like these to socks, or even very large Afghan throws or shawls like this one. This is about 70 inches long, 35 inches wide, all knit on one pair of needles. And that's all for now. I wish you happy knitting.